Today on episode number 522 of the School of Podcasting, I'm back from Chicago and Podcast Movement. I'm going to share a couple quick insights from Podcast Movement, especially what a trip to a pizza parlor can help you with your podcast. We've got an update on New and Noteworthy, and Bernie the Cat weighs in on New and Noteworthy. Hit it, ladies!
The School of Podcasting with Dave Jackson.
Podcasting since 2005. I am your very own personal podcast coach, Dave Jackson. Thanking you so much for tuning in. If you're new to the show, I help you massage your message. I help you tackle that technology. I help you flatten the learning curve and face your fears and get you on the road to a successful podcast. Our website, which is still open through July 16th. So if you want to start a podcast, get in now. Use the coupon code LISTENER, LISTENER. It's going to save you a bunch when you sign up over at schoolofpodcasting.com. Now, for those of you that are regular listeners to the show, you might be noticing that my voice is still a little fried. Yes, it is. And that's because I am back from Podcast Movement. This will probably, he thinks, be one of the shortest episodes of the School of Podcasting ever. And that is because my original plan was to play you the talk that I did. Now, I didn't really do a talk. I did a live Q&A, and I'll be playing you a clip of that here in a bit. Actually, let's play that clip now. Yes, I am almost award-winning. As I said, I have a perfect record. I am 0-9 still. I don't do it for the awards, though. I really don't. I do it for you guys. Yeah, so that was, I'll give you credit for PM16 for trying something new, and I like the idea. What they did, here's a novel idea. This is how you grow your podcast audience. You listen to your customer, and in this case, Dan and Jared said they got a lot of feedback from people that said, we just need a place to ask questions. And so they set this thing up. My only advice to them would be next year, put it in a room, not kind of in a hallway or wherever we were. And I never did see where the actual soundboard was. Otherwise, I would have plugged my recorder into it. But I was just recording the room. And if you ever are in this situation, put your recorder in front of the speaker. I put it on the podium, so I was just picking up a ton of room noise. And quite frankly, it's horrible. Like, I don't want to play it for you. Now, what I will be doing in the future is I will go back and listen to the questions that were asked, and I will answer them in a future episode because it was a good session. But with Podcast Movement, it really was a great success. 1,500 people descended on Cleveland, as the previous Podcast Movements were, and each one's getting better and better. And special thanks to Dan Franks and Jared Easley, as well as Gary Leland and Mitch Todd. And Gary said on Facebook, look, everything you saw was Jared and Dan. But nonetheless, I thank those four guys for kicking it off, and for Jared and Dan for running with it. And the one thing that was different this year, as opposed to other years, previous years I was there as Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting. And this year I went as an employee from Libsyn. And so I pretty much spent then 3 days at least talking from about 7 in the morning to somewhere between midnight and 2 a.m. loudly. Because when you get 1,500 people talking at the same time, it's loud. And so people would walk over and go, so what's the difference between you and Blueberry? What's the difference between you and SoundCloud? And here's my snarky response to that was, well, you should go ask the SoundCloud people what's the difference. And I'm like, oh, that's right. They're not here. They weren't. Blueberry was there. Podbean was there. Spreaker was there. Libsyn was there. But no SoundCloud. So that's because they're not a podcasting platform. They're a music platform that dabbles in podcasting. But it was fun. But talking loud. And then in the evening, I would go out and network with people. I hung out one night with Mike Dell and a little bit with Todd Cochran from Blueberry. One night, I bumped into some people from Spotify and politely mentioned to them they should open the floodgates. And they said, we're working on it. I ran into an actual guy from Apple, and we had a little new and noteworthy conversation on that. And he giggled. and said I can't say anything on the record, which was kind of fun. But consequently, even in the hotel, the background music, and this is not a podcast movement dig, but just you couldn't find any place in the hotel quiet. I actually did some recording for the documentary that I'm working with called The Messengers. You can find that at themessengersdoc.com. Really, really good stuff. It was just loud everywhere you went. And when you're talking like this for hours on end, your voice gets kind of shot. So that was kind of fun. And so I wanted to share some quick insights from Podcast Movement. So this is the first one. I was carrying around what I would just call a traditional laptop case with a shoulder strap. And I will not be doing that ever again in the future. And a lot of people had these big backpacks, which distribute the weight over both shoulders. And I'm not sure if that I would think it would help. I just know I am still, I was swimming today and my shoulders were like, don't think so. So that would be one. And the other thing is, on one hand, you kind of want to stuff everything in case you end up with like the kitchen sink in your laptop case. I put the kitchen sink in the bag that went on the plane, and it was a little better, but a lot of times you don't need that stuff, and it does make a difference when you're lugging this stuff around for days. The other one that I've learned kind of the hard way in this case, if you really want to meet someone, like I wanted to kind of hang out with Jessica Rhodes, I want to hang out with Corey from Podfly, I wanted to meet the Angry Ginger from Podcasting 101. Now I got to meet Jeffrey from the Podcast Fiend, and I got to meet Dan from Podcast Digest. These are new kind of podcasts. Well, they're not new, but these are new people I've never met that do podcasts about podcasting. And so I didn't get to hang out with Jessica or Corey or Jason, the Angry Ginger, because I should have set that up. And it was just a case where you kind of would go out at night, and because it's so many people now, it's not like we all kind of tried to go to this one pizza place. And I'll talk about that in a second, but there's just not enough room. And even the scheduled parties were ginormous and loud and crazy. And I missed that one. In fact, I was actually told by somebody, it's too loud, it's too noisy, don't bother. So if you want to meet somebody in an event, you need to set that up in advance and talk it over maybe beforehand. Hey, I'd really like to sit down and talk to you for a second. And what it does in many cases is you might just make a quick meeting, put a face to the voice, and then set up a meeting for when you go back home. So that is something that I was a little bummed out about, that I just couldn't do that. Now, normally, again, if I was just Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting, I've been running around all day, but I was at the booth. Now, please don't make that sound like I was complaining, because here's the thing. People ask me, how do you like working for Libsyn? And I'm like, well, let's see. I'm standing in a booth talking to some of my friends who stopped by to say hi, and thank you to everyone who did that. That was really cool. Telling you about the new features, the fact that you can now get your show on iHeartRadio through Spreaker. And I'll be talking about the things. Blueberry has some new stuff. Spreaker has some new stuff. We'll be talking about all that stuff in future episodes. But that was one of the big announcements that we announced at Podcast Movement, is if you are a Libsyn subscriber, you can go into destinations and add iHeartRadio. You'll fill out the form, and then that's the whole thing, where that's still kind of the question mark. As long as you've been with Libsyn for more than 2 months, then you will be basically in the queue to be approved. And no, we don't know exactly how long that's going to take, but that should be, just another place for you to get more exposure. So that is, so I was standing there in the booth talking to people that were either my friends or customers of Libsyn, or brand new people who were kind of like, what the heck is a Libsyn? Or my favorite, what the heck is a Lisbon? And I'm like, well, that was a treaty in the Europe. But anyway, and I was sitting there thinking, wait a minute, you know what? I'm going to get reimbursed for my trip. So I didn't have to pay to go there. Because I was a speaker, I didn't have to pay for the conference. And I'm standing around talking about podcasting 24/7. And I'm like, this is like really, really cool. It was really awesome. Now, it was a lot of work and a little stressful at times. Not stressful, but just the physical standing up and the talking was it was what it was. So that was really cool. But the other thing, the third takeaway here, so bring a backpack and only bring what you need would be number one. If you want to meet someone at a future event, set that up in advance. And then number three, don't be afraid to try things. So I did a Q&A at this event, meaning I didn't really need to bring any slides. Now I brought about 3 and talked for like 5 minutes, and then I took a bunch of questions. But this was something that I give kudos to Jared and Dan, because this was new at Podcast Movement 16. They really, in response to customer feedback, put these together. I thought my session went well. I was really worried that there wasn't going to be anybody there to ask questions, but there were a small group, and they had a lot of questions, which is really cool. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed not having to. I practice my presentations per nauseum. I'm always worried about running over, and so that was really, really cool. So those are some cool 3 quick takeaways from that. But there was a big one that, since I'm not going to be playing you my presentation this week, I did kind of see thing. You know me, I like analogies. This is kind of like this, and this is what you can learn from that. So we went to this place called Giordano's Pizza. Now, for the record, I love Giordano's Pizza. In fact, they have a service if you want. They will like freeze dry a pizza for you and mail it to your house. So if I want to get some here in Akron, Ohio, I could do that. In fact, every time I've ever gone to Chicago, the first thing I do is go to Giordano's Pizza. And I understand there's another place that's a little better, Lou somethings. But for me, it's Giordano's. I've never had this other place, so I always go to Giordano's. It's super duper thick, and it's quite yummy. Now, they look really, really small, but I'm telling you, one piece will fill you up. And so and when I say we, I mean, I don't know, about literally probably 100 to 200 people descended on this place at the same time. I mean, it looked like the whole event was going there. And we walk in, and there's about a 90-minute wait. And we found out that so we kind of went, well, yeah, we'll hang out. And it was cool because there was a bunch of Sheep podcast group there. And I was hanging out with my boss, Rob Walsh, and Rob Greenlee from Spreaker. And that's one thing. Can I say something here that's really cool about podcasting? Do you know of any other industry where you would see like IBM going out with Minolta at the Copier event, or where you would see Nike going out with Adidas? It was cool. There are no real jerks in podcasting. So there we were, Libsyn hanging out with Spreaker. The night after that, I was hanging out with Blueberry. But they told us there was a 90-minute wait. Well, it's been a long day, and we're like, you know what? Would you find 90 minutes? But we found out that we could order the pizza, and they could start making it. And then hopefully, by the time we got to our table, the pizza would be there. It was kind of like a race to the table. Who's going to get there first, you or the pizza? And we're like, oh, all right, well, I can do 90 minutes then. The problem is what we were told and what was reality were pretty different. And again, I will still go to Giordano's Pizza. I just don't know if I'll go at dinner time when there's a, giant nerd convention descending on the place. We got to our table, and instead of having the pizza soon, and again, it was a table for 15. That was another reason why they were having a hard time seating us. So we get to our table, but instead of having the pizza soon, we waited another 90 minutes. So to say we were hungry, yeah. So all in all, we waited about 3 hours for our food. Now, was the pizza good? Absolutely. But did it make my eyes roll back in my head and make me go, oh, this is so good? Like all the other times I've had their pizza? No. Now, why? I had been telling people, oh, you've never had it. Oh, wait till how good this is. And it's actually kind of cool to go to a Giordano's Pizza with somebody who's never had it. Because even Rob Walsh was kind of like, well, it's kind of a small piece. And I'm like, dude, wait till you stick the little pie server in there and see just how thick this thing is. So I was really looking forward to that. And you watch their face and they're like, holy cow, because it's just this blah of cheese comes pouring out. It's like somebody shot the pizza and it bled cheese. It's wild. But Now, but after about 3 hours, though, of waiting, unless they're throwing in a free Heil PR40, I don't think the pizza would have lived up to the hype. And so you're like, well, this is a fun story, Dave, of pizza, but what the heck does this have to do with podcasting? So if you're a person who is getting ready to launch a podcast, but it's not quite ready yet because you got to set up the autoresponder. Oh, wait, no, wait. We got to get the squeeze page ready so it works with the sales funnel. And meanwhile, you've already told your audience that you will be launching a podcast soon. Well, by the time you wait and wait and then wait some more for that overall experience, by the time your podcast gets there, it may not live up to the hype because it's coming soon. It's coming. Wait till you hear it. It's going to be awesome. When is it? We've all been victims of overhype. I mean, the latest Independence Day movie that came out, from what I've heard, was just kind of like meh. And you guys ready for some blasphemy? The last Star Wars movie, the new one with J.J. Abrams. I kind of liked it the first time when it was called Star Wars. It was the same movie. Now, granted, it was the same fun and joy of the good guys winning. Spoiler alert. But in the end, I was kind of like, really? And then the fact that Luke Skywalker, spoiler, was in the movie for all of 7 seconds. It didn't quite live up to the hype, in my opinion. I apologize if I just said blasphemy to some people that are now going to hunt me down and slice me in two with a saber. So I say this to keep this in mind. Be careful when you announce that your podcast is, quote, coming soon. You might want to wait until you've finished an episode and it's ready to go and you have your hosting and everything is set to go. You might want to wait until your show is approved in iTunes because that's a manual process. It takes anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks. Make sure it's in Google Play Music. Make sure it's in Stitcher so that when you release the hounds, they are there to go get it. So one thing that was not overhyped that I do want to throw in here as we're talking about podcast movement was my roommate, which is Craig Whelan from Ingleus Podcast. Now, Craig does a podcast. He lives in Spain with his wife, Andy, and he is obviously from the UK. He teaches English to people in Spain. And I always wonder if those people then walk around with an English accent. And it was great because Craig and I were talking, and I figured out that if I was going to make fun of an American accent, the words I would use would be awesome and cool. Because those are like really, when I describe things, that's the two I use, awesome and cool. And what was hilarious about that, and with Craig, if I was going to try to use a British accent, I would say, how was your session? And he'd say, brilliant. And then I'd say, what did you think of the speaker? It was fantastic. So brilliant and fantastic. And so we have this conversation and we walk into the elevator and there in true fashion is a slightly overweight American riding a scooter, and her slightly overweight son walks in with a T-shirt that says something like, I'm the most awesome dude, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah. And also, for anyone out of the country, normally the United States is not a war zone. You just kind of caught us on a bad week. That was the other thing, was mildly embarrassing as an American, that every day we'd turn on the news and people are shot and all sorts of craziness. I think the world's kind of lost its mind, but I want to get off on a tangent on that. But I do want to say thank you to Craig. He was just a great guy. And check out his podcast, Ingleus Podcast. Even if you're, I actually learn things when I tune into that show, and I speak English. And I'm like, really? There's a participle with the thing and the parafiddle. Is there such a thing as a parafiddle? I think I just made up a word. Parafiddle is what happens when you go to a country bar and there's two guys playing fiddles. It's a pair of fiddles, I guess. I'm really tired. Wow.
This podcast is part of the Power of Podcasting Network. Find it at powerofpodcasting.com. Changing the world, one download at a time.
If you're a regular listener to the show, you know I started a new podcast called Because of My Podcast, where we spotlight things that people are able to do, you guessed it, because of their podcast. And in the latest episode, I took excerpts from an interview I did with Jason Hartman, who attributes $10 million to his podcast. And you can find it at becauseofmypodcast.com/iTunes. Rate, review, and subscribe. And I've been explaining how in the past I thought you could get into New and Noteworthy with basically a blink of an eye. And I have not been able to do that. Now I'm about 90 in my latest category, which is technology. But I have not been able to get into the actual New and Noteworthy. And as I record this, I didn't check this week because, well, we just had better things to do. But check this out. I found somebody in the lobby and... All right, so I am here with
Nicole Holland of the Business Building Rockstar Show.
And you can find that at
bbrshow.com.
And we're live in the lobby of the Hyatt Regency in Chicago. And I saw her and I was like, I reckon because you're wearing a shirt with your album art on it. I'm like, hey, I know you because I've been studying New and Noteworthy. And I'm like, you're near the top. And so I asked you, I said, are you seeing any kind of major spike from that? And you said...
No, I'm not. I've been on New and Noteworthy for months now in multiple categories and multiple countries. And since I got on New and Noteworthy, I haven't noticed a spike, and it's just been a slow, gradual growth. So I don't know if it's helped me or not. I mean, I know it's not hurting me, and people recognize me, but whether or not people are listening to my show from it, I'm not sure. I get most of the engagement, and I think I find the most new listeners through my social media engagement.
Got it. And tell us a little bit about what, if I tune into your show, what can I expect?
Sure. You can expect our conversation. So I interview successful entrepreneurs about how they got there. So we talk about we hear the story a lot, well, if I can do it, you can do it. And I went from nothing to this, and I'm not interested in that. There's enough of that out there. And so I want to know, okay, well, really what was it like before you hit this? And how did you overcome these different challenges that my listeners are going through? And so every conversation is completely different. It's like this, like we're just having a talk right now, and whatever comes up, comes up. So you never know what you're going to get. Nice. Amazing people and generally really good conversations. Every once in a while I throw in a solo episode, but I do release interviews Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you, Nicole. Find her again at bbrshow.com. But here's the thing I wanted to share with this. Now, here again, remember I said it was always noisy wherever you went? And again, that's not a crack on podcast movement. That's just a Hyatt Regency thing. And what are you going to do when there's, 1,000 people around? It's kind of hard to go shh and get 1,000 people to listen to you. So I was interviewing, I saw Nicole, and this is one of the fun things about working at Libsyn. I recognize people by their album art because 9 times out of 10, that's what I'm seeing. And so Nicole comes running through and she's wearing her album artwork on her shirt. And I'm like, wow, I know her. And I know her because when I'm doing the studies of New and Noteworthy, she's somewhere near the top of New and Noteworthy, the actual New and Noteworthy. And so I was like, oh, I got to ask her the question. Well, here's the thing. My recorder was packed up. Everything was packed up. The only thing I had was my phone. So that recording you just heard, I went to the voice memo. I hit record. And when I was talking, I pointed the phone at my mouth and basically put like the edge of the phone near my chin. And when Nicole talked, I basically did the same thing to her. We just Bob Barkered, basically shared a phone back and forth. And obviously you get a lot of room ambience. And that's why I said in that clip that, hey, we're here from the Hyatt Regency. So that's what it sounded like in the lobby. But it was listenable. I wouldn't want to do a whole podcast like that. Like I said, the session I did with just thousands of people walking around talking is unusable. There is a point where it's like, there's ambiance and then there's annoying ambiance. And so that's why I'm not using that. But so there you go. Not much of a bump. And she's way at the top. So one of the things from podcast movement that just blew me away is I knew I was nominated in the technology category at the Academy of Podcast Awards. And I had prepared a speech. And as I was sitting there, they mentioned the People's Choice Award. And out of all the podcasts that were nominated, I was one of the 4. And as I see my name up on the screen, I was just like, oh, holy cow. What if somebody, what if I actually win this? Because there was a chance that I won in technology, and then there might be a chance. What if I walk out of here with 2? Because I only brought 1 speech. That could be a problem. But not that talking is a problem for me. But I was really just honored. I mean, we always say it's an honor to be nominated. That one was like, whoa. And then I looked up and I was like, ooh, if I win, that means I have to beat Jen with on Congressional Dish. And I don't want to beat my friend to win. That was kind of weird. But I didn't win in either category, so we can say I now have a perfect 0-9 record. But what would it have sounded if I did win? Well, it would have sounded something like this. And the winner in the technology category is School of Podcasting. Wow. Holy cow. Look, I don't win these very often, so all those people that didn't show up to take your awards, I'm going to take your time, okay? Is that all right? All right, so number 1, I got to thank God for always having my back, even when I make mistakes. I deeply appreciate. Big fan of God and JC and the boys. And obviously, second, I got to thank my listeners for always having my back, even when I make mistakes. Without you, I am nothing. And to the members of the School of Podcasting, thanks for picking me as your coach. It's been a pleasure serving you. And of course, a special shout out to the Ask the Podcast Coach chat room. You folks are truly neat. Thanks to the Academy and my fellow nominees. You know, it was great being nominated with you. I've been nominated for 8 different awards over the years, and I got to say, it's finally nice to win one. To my co-hosts I've had over the years, Rob Walsh, Paul Culligan, Gary Leland, Eric K. Johnson, Jim Collison, and of course, my tripod brothers, Daniel J. Lewis and Ray Ortega. Gentlemen, thanks for being a great co-host and in some cases competition, but thanks for being even better friends. To Libsyn for hosting all my files without a glitch. And while I'm at it, thanks for the job. And use the coupon code SOPFREE to get a free month. Come on, you know I had to go there, right? And, really, this is, it's kind of overwhelming. And if you ask anyone in my family, they will tell you I do not handle compliments well. But I want to give you a little story here. If you're new to Dave Jackson, 2015 was not a great year for me. And there were some people that were there for me to either just be a shoulder to cry on, an ear to listen. And those were Daniel J. Lewis, Marcus Couch, Eric K. Johnson. And I got to tell you this story. Steve Stewart from stevestewart.me called me during my divorce just to make sure I was okay. And as I got divorced 10 days before Christmas, Steve took time out of his family time and called me on Christmas Day. And I know we talk a lot about CPM advertising and income reports, but when you're spending Christmas with your cat, the phone call from Steve Stewart was worth $1 million. So give a quick shout out to Steve Stewart, buddy. I deeply, deeply appreciated that. Yeah. 2 more quick points. I'm almost done. If you're almost ready to launch your podcast, raise your hand. Wow. Look at all those hands. Okay. If you're waiting on that one thing to launch, let me tell you this. An almost perfect podcast will impact 100% more people than the one that never makes it off your hard drive. So please just launch. Lastly, people ask me, Dave, why do you have Jeremiah 29:11 on your website? Well, like I said, in 2015, I got divorced. Shortly thereafter, I was laid off. I was estranged from my family due to some things my ex-wife had said. And basically, it was a dark place. Well, I moved back to my home city of Akron, Ohio, where I now have a peaceful house. I called some friends and got a job at Libsyn. And after 7 years of not talking to my brother, that bridge has been restored. So when things get dark, remember Jeremiah 29:11 goes a little something like this. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you. It's plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." So tonight I stand here with a trophy in my hand and I say, this is why I have Jeremiah 29:11 on my website. Because it's true. So thank you to the Academy again. Thank you all. Have a great night. So the other thing I did at Podcast Movement as I start to wrap this up is I told you how about the people I didn't get to meet or I didn't get to hang out, is I strengthened some of the relationships I had already started. So for example, and this was cool, the last event I spoke at was at Podfest in Florida. And I had a lot of people come find me from that. They're like, hey, I saw you in Florida. And so I hung out with those people. I hung out with more of the She Podcast crowd because here's something I got to say a thank you to. Elsie and Jessica do She Podcast. You can find them at shepodcast.com. It is a very entertaining show. It is podcasting from a female slant. And I just find it interesting because I'm not a female. And we talked about honors, being named a nominee for the People's Choice. But this really blew me away. Myself and John Buchanan were asked to host their 100th episode. And here's a little clip of that. What's up, Jessica?
What's up, LC?
Oh my God, dude, it's episode number 100.
I know, look at us. We're like Betty Big Deals over here, episode 100.
We're big deals, I know, dude, I know. It's like, yay.
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 Oh my God, Elsie, this week it has been like crazy. I'm trying to get ready for the episode, and I've been listening to old episodes and pulling clips, and our She Podcast community has been sending in congratulation audio. It's been crazy. This should just be a fun show. I mean, we're just going to pull out all the stops.
And I know, it's just going to be, oh my gosh, and I can't talk like this for the whole episode. That's going to be crazy.
But fun.
Fun. So here's the thing. Elsie and Jess came to John and I and just went, hey, here's our podcast. Don't break it, basically. Do whatever you want. You kind of know what the show is like. And to me, to have somebody go, here, I'm going to let you get directly in front of my audience. I've been nervous. I was nervous when I appeared on the Podcast Awards a couple weeks ago. I was really nervous, and so was John when we did that show. What an honor. And so I got to hang out at a brunch with them. I was going to hang out with them at the pizza place, and then I kind of got roped into the table I was at and couldn't get out. But I was trying, because that is a group, and that's the other thing I need to point out, and here we go, because now Dave's out of notes. But the other thing I noticed that was definitely different at this podcast movement, and this is a good thing. Number one, I met a woman from, I believe, Thailand that podcasts in Mandarin. And she told me that podcasting is kind of getting ready to explode in China. I talked to some folks that are doing podcasts about podcasting in Spanish. So apparently I need to go learn Spanish now so I can say something else besides "Que pasa?" and things like that. So that the Latino, I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but that people that speak Spanish are starting to podcast more. And it's a global thing, folks, and they're catching up, which is really, really cool. And so I got to hang out with some more She Podcasters. The one night was really cool. I got to hang out with Katie Krimitsos and Chris, who is the executive producer of the Messengers documentary. Find that again at themessengersdoc.com. But I was on the left-hand side of me, I had Katie Krimitsos, and on the right-hand side, I had Natalie from bizchicks.com. Now, that is bizchix.com. So ladies, if you're looking for a kind of entrepreneur slant from the female point of view, check it out. And Natalie, I still owe you for the Uber, so don't forget about that. I don't want to leave you hanging. And so that's cool. And Katie and Natalie were giving me tips on, because now that I'm single, they were giving me hints on how to talk to women in the new age. And I'm like, I am so not ready for that. But that was a fun conversation. And I was able to take people that I'd previously met and make a deeper understanding. I was able to establish a slight relationship with the people from Spotify. I was able to establish a somewhat of a relationship with a guy from Apple that I can't talk about. But so it was interesting in that. And that really is one of the key points of going to these events, is establishing relationships. I'm really looking forward to when the sessions are out. I'll definitely go back and listen to those, especially Rob Walsh's one about how all the marketing stuff is BS about your podcast. That's definitely one you want to check out. So I was able to take some of those relationships that I'd built before and extend them, as well as make some new ones. It was interesting. I met a guy in the lobby, and it was interesting because he said, yeah, I met you last year on the elevator. And that's the one thing I wish, I don't know that I did. And that is, last year I was purposely going around talking to people I had never met before in my life. And I kind of did that this year at the Libsyn booth. So I believe I've definitely achieved that goal. But last year was a little more deliberate, where I would find somebody. Here they were finding me. So it was really, really interesting, and looking forward to it when it comes out. Now, next year, it's going to be in August in Anaheim, California. So we will bring our surf gear when we go out there, maybe hit up LA while we're there. That'll be fun. The next event I'll be going to is August 13th and 14th. That is PodCamp Pittsburgh. So that'll be fun. I don't know that I'll be speaking at that. I'll have to put in a request to see if they can squeeze me in. And then I will be speaking at Podcast Mid-Atlantic. You can find that at podcastmidatlantic.com. That is September 9th and 10th. And that is Philadelphia, PA. And speaking of John Buchanan, John and I are going to get Philly cheesesteaks. He says I am not allowed to leave until I get an official Philly cheesesteak. So I'm looking forward to cheesesteaks with John, as well as talking to people. And that one, Podcast Mid-Atlantic, I mentioned the lovely and talented Jessica Kupferman. She will be there. Heather Ordover. That was somebody else I wanted to, from Craftlit. I wanted to see Heather at Podcast Movement. And if she was there, I missed her. Teo Roxon, Shane Whaley, Anthony Minaya, I believe is how you pronounce that. Steve Swanson from the Muppet Cast, which is awesome. I met him last year. Jeff Bradbury. So a lot of guys are the people that I saw at last year there, and Jessica Rhodes, which is awesome. So if I don't get to catch up with Jessica, which I will between now and then, I will definitely get to hang out with her there. Mark Aswith, who's the co-founder of Podcast Website, which is awesome. I did see him briefly in Podcast Movement. Mary Nichols, aka DJ Fusion from Fusebox Radio Online. Ramona Rice, who was the community manager from Podcast Websites. Just a lot of cool people. Joe Bogus, and I believe that is Joel, not Joe. So Mr. Pardo, you might want to fix that typo. Darlene Victoria Gonzalez, who is the founder of Digital Media Support Services, host of Inspired Entrepreneur's Guide, Annette Bone, and one of my favorite people on the planet, Tina Dietz, is going to be at Podcast Mid-Atlantic, as well as Tom Tate, who's the product marketing manager from AWeber, and Christian Lee, who's the founder and host of What Are We Watching? And I'm sure that's going to just keep getting bigger and bigger and better and better. Only 60 days until Podcast Mid-Atlantic. And I'll keep you posted on that. Also, keep your eye on PodFest. That is going to be in Orlando. That is, I believe, next year in February. And that was one of my favorite events last year. So I'm looking forward to going back. So I thought this was going to be a short episode. I'm looking at my timer and I see 31 minutes. And so not quite as long as usual, but still hopefully got you to your destination if you're one of the people that is commuting on Monday morning. Thank you very much. I deeply appreciate that. And now, of course, the last thing I got to mention is, hey, if you want to start a podcast, the School of Podcasting is open for one more week, and then it's closed for another 2 months. Get in now. tap into my 11 years of knowledge. We have twice a month. We have office hours, which is just free consulting for you to come in and ask me anything. We've got access to our private Facebook group. You have basically advanced email support through my system, as well as step-by-step tutorials. And people go, what do you mean when you say that? I mean, do you want to know how to plan your podcast? Covered. Want to know how to build your website with WordPress? Covered. Want to know how to plug everything in? Got it. Want to understand all that different pieces, parts of equipment? Got it. Want to know how to promote your show? Got it. Want to know how to organize your information? Got it. Want to know how to monetize your show? Got it. It's everything you need to start a podcast is at the School of Podcasting. Use this coupon code, LISTENER, LISTENER, and that will save you a bunch. And here's the thing. The reason I always highlight that is because it's nowhere on the website. If you go out there and go, I'll just find that coupon code. No, I'm here to tell you, the only place you will find me putting that coupon out is right here, because it's my way of saying thank you for being a listener. So if you're looking for somebody just to point you in the right direction, you need that little nudge, I'm your man. And we can do it live. We can do it in Facebook. We can do it over email, whatever you need to do to get your podcast launched. And I can save you a ton of cash, because I'm not going to go tell you to buy $1,600 worth of equipment. I'm not going to, I'm kind of frugal at times myself. And so consequently, I don't like spending money on stuff you don't need. Case in point, if you're doing a solo show, you don't need a mixer. I'm just here to tell you, I just saved you $100 right there. So those are the kind of tips you will get when you join the School of Podcasting. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks to everybody I met at Podcast Movement. It was great to see you. Can't wait to see you again. And take care, and God bless.
If you like what you hear, then go tell somebody. If you like what you hear, then go tell somebody.
Oh, I know what you're saying. You're going, hey, Dave, you promised a little Bernie the cat. And for the record, I swear my cat is more popular than I am. I got a lot of questions about my cat at Podcast Movement. So the cool thing about a cat, I have an auto feeder, an auto waterer, and a clean litter box, and he can kind of hang out by himself. Had a big party. I had to break it up. A lot of karaoke. I have recordings of that coming in the future. Bernie's greatest hits. But this is what it sounded like when I came home, and probably one of the longest frères I've ever heard this cat do. And it goes a little something like this. Bernie. Little Bernie, where you at, buddy? Hi. Yeah, I'm home, buddy. What do you think? Yeah, you think? Are you glad to see me, buddy? Yeah, you're not happy because I was gone so long, huh? Is that all the fraying you're going to do? I was going to say, I thought there'd be more. And you're going to celebrate by rubbing your head on the table? You're a weird little kitty. You done? You happy? I hear you purring. Oh, you're not done? Okay. Yeah. Yeah? Psycho Kitty? It was a great song by the Talking Heads. Oh, that was Psycho Killer. Yeah, I know. Yeah, got it. Alright. You know, it smells like a cat box in here. You've been busy while I was gone. I know. Well, maybe you shouldn't eat so much. I do appreciate that you didn't puke on the floor. Alright, yeah, I do. Alright, my friend. Say goodbye, Bernie.